But those of us at home that want to cross the streams, you can go over to nautiluslive.org and click on our quad feed, and you can see all 4 of the streams.
All right.
I don't know.
Yeah, what do we got in there now?
I don't see anything yet. I'll probably have to bring the hose back in. Suction still on?
Yeah, suction's on 75%. At least that's what the hydraulics page is telling me. The jar image looks different. Atlanta's altitude's looking great.
Let's try and turn it off and then rotate the jar a little bit.
Roger. Turn it off. Little touch on the jar here. And back. Look right?
Yeah, looks right. I don't see any flow through there.
Plus 10, plus 20.
Oh, give it full beans.
Full beans. Huh.
Zoom in on the tunicate there, Dan.
Sure. There were some floaty bits at the very, very beginning that looked like they went near the top of the jar, but
Okay.
I don't know where they went.
Go to switch a full jar and give it, so maybe they'll fall down.
Yeah, they are very gelatinous. They could actually be floating.
Yeah, or they could be stuck to the medium.
Mesh, yeah.
I think that
All right,
must
well,
be the case.
let's just go with that. We'll take a look in the jar and in the mesh.
Turn on the suction there on 7 for a minute.
Oh, roger.
Tilt down it just a little with the bubble cam there for me.
Yep, coming down a bit. Definitely saw some movement in jar 7 as if the flow is going. Just
I have to play with this stupid hose here for a minute.
Enemy.
Silly hose, sorry. It's not stupid, it's silly.
This Atlanta view is quite interesting of your craft exercises.
Trying to be sneaky, but Atlanta's spying on us. So sometimes the hose gets stuck in the wire mesh that's under there, and it doesn't want to go back where it's supposed to go.
Those people in chat asking questions, I will answer them in just a little bit.
frustrating. Okay.
Nice.
Hey, nice.
I think it would be a good idea to make a note in the sample log that we should also check the flush or jar 7, just in case there's not anything in 6.
You want to go wide for us, Shane?
Sure.
Let me get a rock while we're here.
Yeah, any rocks attractive here?
I don't see anything. Do you see anything?
I thought we did when we were coming in here. Maybe to the left a bit. Can you hit one on bubble cam for us?
Nothing looks like it's sticking out or anything.
All right. In the meantime, if we're looking for a rock, feel free to interrupt me if you see
Really cool anemones, though.
All right. There was a lot of questions asked in the past 10 minutes. I will just do a quick speed round. Is that a mama jellyfish? No, that is a tunicate. Why doesn't the Nautilus visit very many
continue on.
very many hydrothermal vents? I believe we do. It just depends on what expedition we want to go on and what data we want to collect. Do you take samples of species? Yes, we do. Why is it named Hercules? When Hercules was built, the people who built it named it that way, and usually, at least on the Nautilus, our ROVs are named after Greek legends. How deep can the ROV dive? About 4,000 meters. How long is a shift before watch change? About 4 hours. Every time you guys do switch a watch or do have a new watch cycle, do you guys go back to your previous task you were doing before you left? We try to follow the dive plan that we have. So we try to pick off where the other team left off. Anything particular we're looking for? I believe, are we still looking for sea cucumbers and different type of coral, Steve?
Come down a little
We
bit
are.
for me.
Yep.
Strangest thing that we found
Roger.
in the deep blue ocean, probably a flip-flop and a pail. And yeah.
The mucus that was just floating and made the colors look weird was the strangest thing we've seen, I think.
Oh, that's also true.
Oh, yeah.
Or whatever it was. Some material.
Sure.
Uh,
Yeah, sure.
Here's some questions for our ROV guys up front. Hang on, let me find it again. There it is. So, with Hercules having a lot of vibration, how many screws would be loosened with the vibration?
Hercules definitely has a screw loose. Pilots do too. The ones we have the biggest trouble with recently are the ones that hold the syntactic foam to the aluminum frame. There's some, there's at least 4 rods for every one of the buoyancy blocks, and there's 4 different buoyancy blocks on Hercules. And the rods are probably almost 1 meter long, close to 3 feet. Some of them are shorter than that. Anyways, the frame flexes and the buoyancy, expands and contracts every time we dive. It gets pressed and come up in it. expands it again. Just, you know, probably millimeters or sub-millimeters. But anyways, it causes those, the nylock bolts on the 3/8 rods to come loose, so we're constantly tightening those, like after every dive. But for the most part, stays down. There's hundreds of fasteners. Sorry, go ahead, Lynette. Hundreds of socket head cap screws on the manipulator. And those are also tend to come loose because we use it as a hammer and a pry bar and scraper. So we check those after every dive, and we often find a couple of those just a little bit loose. If we don't keep on that, keep the maintenance up, they'll come loose to the point where we have issues on the dive.
Cool.
That's part of our post-dive, pre-dive checks that we do every time the vehicle comes on deck. We crawl over it pretty good.
So these pre-dive and post-dive checks, how long would they usually take?
4 hours.
An entire watch.
And it takes us 4 hours to turn the vehicle around. Vehicles. The scientists have to get all their samples off, and but we start right away as soon as it hits the deck. We're working on one vehicle while they're working on the other one. And, it's quite the pit stop when they're on deck. Got a quick zoom there, Dan?
Yeah. What is discoloration?
No idea.
Something might have been living there.
Was, if not is.
I'm gonna do another car wash run down the slope here.
Here's another question from chat. How are your guys' watch groups formed? Are you randomly selected? Or are you paired up on purpose? I think we're all randomly selected. I'm not 100% sure on that.
The ROV teams are not randomly selected, and I believe the watches are also not. That's determined by the expedition leader and the different department leads, and what they try and do is balance the skills and strength, you know, where the strong points are and where the experience level is. So all the watches here in the van are kind of balanced out with
Well, there you go.
And
expertise and experience level.
Expertise too, yep. So that the biologists aren't sitting in the back row going, is this a rock?
Don't worry, I'll do that for you.
At least you have the expertise.
Would you call yourself a rock expert, Brandon?
How about an intermediate?
Thank you.
A rock intermediate.
Novice.
But on the internet, you're an expert.
Exactly. If anyone asks, you're a rock expert.
I mean, most minerals you can show me and I'll probably be able to tell you what it is. So, does that make me a rock expert? I don't know. And most rock types too, I could probably tell you.
It's one tiny chrysogorgia back there, but really still nothing a lot here. Keep going up. Hopefully we get into some better flows.
This feels a lot like last watch, when it was just barren plains of sediment.
This is worse than last watch.
I'm having an okay time.
No biology here.
I'm having an okay time looking at this.
Well, so long as Brandon is.
that's what's really important.
This
As
is
long as we
way
keep,
better than the sediment.
as long as we keep the geologist happy.
At least there were sponges last time.
Yeah, there was a lot of tripod fish too.
You believe me in danfish?
You're gonna get in trouble. This is what it feels like to walk around on land rocks. You're not gonna see a lot of life. It's just walking around on rocks covered by sand.
I mean, oxygen dropped pretty precipitously after about 1300, so that was around 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning this morning. But, you know, I still wouldn't call this, you know, hypoxic or anything like that. It could just be a transition zone where we're not having a lot of things because the oxygen changed pretty rapidly over a pretty short gradient, but I also suspect the sediment might be a problem here. There's some cup corals, so it's not totally devoid of life.
So cute.
So far on this wall, on this steep slope, it's been mostly cup corals, mushroom corals, and golden corals. The last watch saw a pretty decent sized sponge though, Euplectillid, dictyalis.
What about that rock right there, Dan?
Too late. Sorry, I was moving pretty fast there to stay out of the dust cloud.
I was joshing you anyway. I was talking about the big one on the lasers. That was like 3 feet long.
Yeah, blast the porch light there.
Roger, porch light.
Yeah, do a quick zoom there then, where the dust catches us.
Yeah, you bet.
So what's the little white thing in the middle of that thing? The top of the stalk.
Is that dinner? To the left side of it?
No,
Or
inside the tunicate.
That's just like its viscera, you know, internal anatomy, organs.
Do we know what kind of organ that might be?
No, I'm not certain of these. They have a bit different anatomy
Okay,
than
here
the
comes
more
the dust.
planktonic feeding tunicates.
It's very soft.
See, something
here.
broke off right there.
Yeah.
It's a cool shot.
Probably a mixture of digestive glands and palmetto material.
Okay.
You can see the giant dust cloud, I mean.
Put the porch light back off.
Yeah, please. Silt is really fine.
Do you want to poke around down here, maybe?
It's just in the dust cloud, so
Looks a little
as
loose.
soon as I land, we would have zero vis there.
Okay.
See the big dust cloud under us in Atlanta.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Good as in tight.
Thank you.
Yep, keep moving.
Dead glass sponges.
Sure.
All right, here's a question for our navigation. What is the spacing between contours at this location? Of elevation / distance in whatever units.
Our contours in the HYPACK screen are 10 meters. What was the other question?
Oh, they just want to know in what, it didn't matter what unit you used, but
Okay.
so there you go, 10 meters.
Yep, 10 meters.
For scientific data, do we always use metric system?
Yes. Yeah, it unites everybody.
In science, at least.
Come up just a bit.
Yeah, roger. Always use meters on topo maps. Unless you're the American government, then
And
you
then
force
do whatever
other
you
stuff.
want.
I find it interesting we use knots instead of meters per second.
Yeah. Some of the charts are also in fathoms, which drives me nuts.
Yeah, our charts can be feet, meters, or fathoms, and sometimes it's not totally clear which unit it is.
Can you even fathom?
Oh,
Oh my
God.
god.
Whoa.
Minus 10 watch
Good
bugs.
Lord.
You lose the game right now.
I thought that was pretty tame.
The tolerance level at 5 o'clock in the morning is substantially lower. So the bar is much higher.
Gotta come up with better ones.
No, you can keep moving.
Answer that question in chat. Any advice / motivation to any younger individuals wanting to one day follow in your guys' footsteps? As I am that sort of younger
You
individual.
want to maybe try around here?
I'll answer this question in a second.
Maybe. No, you can keep moving.
I like this one.
Yeah, or this one maybe, or this one. Yeah.
Maybe in this one that looks pretty crusty. It's tiny too.
It's all one big rock.
Aw, shucks. Oh.
Ow, fiddlesticks.
Even the
Yeah.
even the pebbles are not loose.
No, not happening.
So going back to that question of any advice / motivation to younger individuals wanting to one day follow in your guys' footsteps. Well, am sort of on that younger individual side of things, so I'd say probably, although it's cliche, never give up and stay super, super persistent. Because the worst somebody can say to you, either if you're applying for a job or trying to move forward in life, the worst somebody could say to you is no. And then from there, you just keep on persisting, keep on trying to improve, and eventually you can accomplish anything you want, essentially, if you just keep at it.
Beautifully said.
Full send. Any other piece of advice from the team?
A little piece of advice for me is if there's a particular role you're interested in, especially in the Nautilus, it's quite an awesome collection of past crews' biographies. You can learn about them, and sometimes you can find them online, reach out to them, and get a more personal conversation going. Helps you figure out what the job's like and maybe whether it's right for you, and also how to prepare. LinkedIn's a good resource for that. Yeah, do your digging and look for some contacts to actually speak with one-on-one. It's been really helpful for me. I call them information interviews.
Yeah, I definitely second Gibson there. Those crew bios are invaluable. On them too, they will have information regarding their, history of education and work experiences and stuff that can really shed light on different avenues you can take. But I absolutely second that. Informational interviews are worth their weight in gold.
Sure.
And then Steve, question for you, going a little ways back. What is the name of that book that you mentioned a little while ago that talked about hydrothermic vents?
No, you can.
I think it's called something like The Ecology of Hydrothermal Vents.
Sorry, person in chat, I know you've been asking that for a little while, I just didn't see it.
I think it's put together by Cindy Vandover, who was one of the scientists, lead scientists during our exploration of the Cayman Rise.
We've seen a lot of these.
It's a collection of pretty chapters written by various authors.
And Steve, this is a...
That's a halosaur?
A halosaur, there we go. That says halosour.
Suffix sour, like dinosaur. What is sour?
Oh, I spelled it right. No, never mind. Take it back.
When something is a soar, a halosaur, a dinosaur, what does that mean?
Does it mean lizard?
Yeah. I think it
Nice,
means joint
Lynette.
pain. So Brandon, here's a question for you. Do we know like an estimated age of this feature that we're seeing right here?
I don't think so, no.
Yeah.
Might have an overhang coming up.
Ooh.
Most of the seamounts we've been to so far, we've had estimations. But I don't think we have it for this, because there's just like these, yeah. Although, I believe Johnston has been sampled before, so there's probably some data out there, but I don't, it's not in my immediate memory.
So, another question from chat. Halosaur, is that a salt lizard? Or is salt lizard, right?
That would be the literal translation.
So yes, the literal translation is salt lizard.
I like that.
Me too.
Is it called salt lizard because it's found in salt water? I assume.
Or does it taste good with salt?
Oh.
No eating
Salty.
stuff, Gibson.
Oh. I've been sneaking into the sample fridge at night.
This is a no take
This is sponge.
reserve.
Is that a sponge?
Can't tell if it's limestone or sponge.
Quick zoom on the
It's a very
Yeah.
thick
Suspect.
sponge.
Suspect.
I think it's a rock.
It's a
rock.
rock of some
Different
type.
color.
Yeah, it doesn't. That looks weird.
If that's attached,
Weird
I'm,
rock.
That
I'm
looks
walking onto this van.
Weird.
There's no way that's attached.
Full wide.
That would be so wonky. No, I think that fell from above.
It's a long way to fall.
Yeah.
It's a long way to the carbonate.
There's rocking and
Another
rolling.
couple kilometers, 2-3 kilometers at
Or
least.
maybe
Nice one, Cooker.
somebody dropped it from their ship.
Yeah, that's probably more likely, but that's a great spot.
Ooh.
It's loose.
It is very loose.
It's loose.
I don't think we want to sample
Yeah, I
this,
don't want
though.
it though. Sorry, Dan.
We just wanted to
Yeah,
see
you
what
can
it
check
was.
it out.
Just want to look at it.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's definitely limestoney. It's even got some dissolution on it.
This looks like limestone, doesn't it?
Yeah, look at your jaw marks.
Yeah.
Very
Is-
cool.
Is limestone usually pretty brittle compared to everything else?
No.
Oh.
It's just like flaky, right? Sandy?
No.
Soft? No.
No. It's pretty solid. Limestone is.
We've also seen in the past, on previous expeditions, what looks like limestone, deep 3,000 meters or more, and sometimes what it is guano chunks that from ships that had passed through this area, perhaps mined guano at Johnston or other locations, and sometimes you lose a few over the side.
Yeah, that did look particularly soft.
Yeah,
So, wouldn't be surprised if it was
Yeah,
something
they-
like that.
guano or whatever the chemicals that make up guano,
What's
whether
that
it's
brown
limestone
line there in the middle of your screen?
I can zoom in on it.
Oh, yeah.
and other
What is
other
that?
stuff. Could be
It's a fallen sponge, maybe?
looks like some sponge debris. Yeah.
Okay.
Did you see something off to the
Yeah.
left?
There might be some rocks off to the left.
Oh yeah.
What do you think?
I don't see anything. I see a fish. Maybe, I mean, maybe right here, but so far doesn't seem like it.
Unknown. Might be able to break one, but
They always look better from above, and then you get close. This looks good from above, right? But then you get down there, and it's just got a small shadow.
yeah, they're just,
Oh, there actually is a coral right here.
there it is.
Yeah,
I could break that piece of rock off, maybe.
you could try, yeah.
If you can do that, earn 1,000 watch bucks.
Oh.
Better hope there's some
about
internal
inflation.
fracturing in there.
Yeah.
Might start getting pulled soon. Do you want me to back up?
No.
Is that a group of zoanthids on the
Could
ledge
be here,
too?
that one. You want to zoom in there then?
Yep.
Yeah, so this is something called a stoloniferous octocoral.
That's what we're pointing at.
They typically will encrust on rocky surfaces rather than make their own skeleton.
Okay, get a good bite. I don't think so. sometimes when they're hanging out, you just touch them and they fall away, you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes not. Guess every rock climber knows that, right?
All too well.
So Brendan, here's another question for you. Someone in chat asked, do you think there could be pumice like they found on the last cruise?
Pumice.
Pumice.
Well, it didn't look that vesicular, and you're putting a pretty big dent in it with the manipulator, so I don't think so. I think Steve is right on some kind of softer material, not technically a rock.
So how is pumice? How is that formed?
So pumice is ash,
Hmm.
volcanic ash, but you don't really get it where it formed because it's less dense than water. So when it forms, it floats to the surface. It floats around up there and then gets deposited somewhere else. So yeah, it could, like we could potentially maybe see one randomly where it doesn't belong, but I don't think that's what that was. I don't think pumice is like yellow like that rock
It's discolored, yeah. Could have been something growing shallow, you know, accumulated this patina of, you know, biotic films.
And we're able to move a little more rapidly because we're not stopping to look at biology. Why we're able to zoom around tonight. There's nothing to look at.
Thank you.
No, I'm happy with what you're doing there. It's perfect.
And Nav, assuming our 8:30 on deck time, what does our bottom time look like?
Yeah, looks like we should come up around 7 or just a hair after. 7:05.
Oh, we got plenty of time.
Yeah, bring our heading around to 045 fish.
045. Roger that. So 055 here.
Sorry, go a little slower. Let me.
Yeah, sorry.
I should have said as I come back
Yeah,
around.
that makes sense.
I messed up there.
Okay.
Just want to face you into the hill there.
Roger.
That's probably good in there somewhere.
Roger that.
What about here on the left? It's got to be something unconsolidated. You don't have to move too fast.
Not seeing anything.
This maybe, or that.
Is that more sponge rubble?
Yeah, looks like it.
I think they're all consolidated there. It's just the way the sediment's sitting on them.
Yeah. Yeah. As soon as you get close.
This one looks really
This one?
3D, yeah. Like you could
Maybe.
get a jaw around it.
I don't think so, but I'll give it a poke.
We got time. I think, I don't think we're going to make it to waypoint 8 anyway, so I think if we make it to 7 by the end of our bottom time, it'll be a successful dive. Yeah, okay.
So Steve, here's another question. How crucial is it that you adhere to the schedule? What can you do if you come across something amazing 5 minutes before the end of your dive, like a whale fall or new species of coral, etc.?
That's when it usually happens. That's when it usually happens, yep. Well, the dive plan,
Yep.
sometimes it's more of like guidelines, and sometimes it needs to be strictly adhered to. They're chrysogorgia species.
Okay.
Something like this was sampled a few days ago. The only thing that is really absolutely concrete about a dive plan is time in the water and usually time out of the water, but that can be sometimes extended if it's a spectacular find or things are going great. But the waypoints also, they're kind of just floating points on the ground. Nothing special about them, but help us kind of guide and keep pace if we need to. But this type of seamount exploration in this type of environment is a little bit more freestyle. So if we find a good contour layer that has a lot of biology, we might follow along it a little bit, or we might speed past areas that have well known or no biology around there. So yeah, in this case, since this dive is pretty opportunistic, we're really here largely to get out of the weather and put the vehicles in the water, make some useful observations. It can be a little bit more freestyle.
Sorry.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, looks good.
It's like a loose tooth.
Yeah.
Dentist.
This volcano's got a lot of teeth.
All it takes is a little bit of determination and a $250,000 arm.
Ooh.
Yeah, looks good.
Good rock.
Yeah, this one's fine.
Finally.
What's that red tell you, Brandon?
Oxidation.
Of iron?
Yes.
Neat.
Can you open the, is there anything floaty in that starboard box?
Full what?
Nope, just a bunch of rocks and one piece of coral.
Roger. Can you open the box for me?
Roger, open starboard box.
We can go into delta on the starboard side.
Roger.
Look at that big old rock. For those viewers at home, if you'd like to continue to channel 3, you can see us putting in our sample.
You put the other camera up there for me.
Yep.
I think I'm in. Oh, that's real helpful.
It's a neat Atlanta view at the moment.
Make a note to adjust that camera.
Roger.
Good sample.
Okay, you can close the box, please.
Closing box.
Good eye, Dan.
I didn't pick that one out and just happened to poke something that moved. Random rock poking.
So Brandon, are you still looking for nodules, and have you found any yet?
Yes, we're still looking for them, and no, we have not found any.
Why
Actually, I haven't cut open one of the ones, but they look pretty angular, so I doubt they're going to be nodules, but yeah.
Why are you trying to find nodules?
Some people are interested in their formation as well as their elemental compositions.
Do we know how they're formed?
Yes, they, well, somewhat. We know they precipitate out of the water, but nodules themselves, I don't think their formation is all that clear yet. There's various theories about how the landscape needs to look for them to form, what kind of current, or not current, but what kind of nutrition the current's bringing, as well as, you know, there's theories that they only form during anoxic periods, so not sure yet. That's why we want to grab them, so we can better understand their formation.
For science.
Are we moving along to the southeast? Is that the general direction?
We are,
Okay.
150.
Yeah, looks good.
Yeah.
Can you tilt down a bit for me there?
Roger, tilt down.
Sure.
So do we have an estimation or a assumption of why we don't see a whole lot of biology down here?
Yeah, it sounds like the flow conditions are not great here. Flows could be pretty stagnant, which is why we don't have very large colonies of anything. Also, oxygen has just dropped pretty precipitously over the past couple of hours, past 100 meters or so, 200 meters vertically. So that could present a stressor for a lot of different species. Substrate looks okay here. So it's probably a flow or environmental condition that presents a challenge. Most of what we're seeing too are small things, so I would expect, you know, that is most likely an indicator for oxygen stress in the biological community. Usually you don't get very big animals in poorly oxygenated environments.
So do we see a direct connection between oxygen-rich areas and we see that there's bigger species growing there?
Sometimes, yep, sometimes. It's easier to have larger species for sure. You know, that you can also have larger species and a greater diversity of species in areas that are, you know, maybe poorer in oxygen but have greater flow conditions, and those flow conditions provide more oxygen per unit time to you know, whatever animal you're seeing there, or there's potentially more oxygen variability. But I don't think the oxygen is really all that limiting for corals as a group, perhaps for certain species here. But it is curious. I'm more inclined to think it's probably some sort of flow-related constraint here.
And so the sort of that oxygen-rich environment, does it just allow it to grow? Like, how does that exactly work? What's the exact relationship between more oxygen, bigger creatures?
Well, you know, most heterotrophic organisms that consume other, you know, organic material need oxygen to to respire for cellular processes. So I think you know, it's kind of like the great common denominator for all multicellular life on the planet. If there's no oxygen, then existence is not possible.
Is there any part of the ocean or more of the deep sea that has no oxygen?
There are persistent oxygen minimum zones. There are also areas of low oxygen in this latitude, but oxygen minimum zones usually occur on the eastern margins of oceans against continents, most notably in the eastern Pacific. They're persistent.
Does that have something to do with freshwater interaction?
No, it's a balance of high productivity and high respiration by bacteria breaking down that productivity at depth, and relatively poorly oxygenated bottom waters that don't really provide a oxygen replenishment from the depths. So you get these perfect conditions that result in low or anoxic environments for most of the year, or on multi-year scales. For example, one of the best known drivers of that pattern that sustains low oxygen are these El Nino-like conditions, which reduces turnover in the surface waters, so you don't get as much. Atmospheric winds don't push as much water offshore, so you get kind of like a stronger stratification at the surface, and that reduces some of the replenishment of oxygen from deep waters.
Roger, coming down a bit.
And it usually results in fisheries crashes and things like that. There's also a productivity component. It's a really interesting oceanographic process. But we don't really have that signal out here necessarily, perhaps in atmospheric conditions or winds, but we don't really get that persistence of oxygen this far out into the Pacific.
And then in these oxygen minimum zones, we can safely assume there's not a whole lot of life going on?
Well, I mean, that's one of the drivers that I mentioned. You know, I really do think it's flow conditions here that's probably limiting a lot of things. But, you know, we're still trying to answer some basic questions about the deep sea, so all of this will go to support that.
What are some of those basic questions?
Where animals occur and why.
Ah.
Yep.
Another small bottle brush chrysogorgia, I think.
Steve, we're continuing to step 150. Let me know when you want to start heading more toward the east, toward waypoint 7.
Got it. What's the distance between here and there, about?
I think it's about 1,000 meters. Let me double check.
Okay.
Yeah, about 950 meters.
Yep.
Okay.
1,000.
Yep.
So.
Well, yeah, there's a crinoid there. Can we do a zoom in on that? We have a few seconds.
Which one? I don't think you're on SBL there, Dan.
Sorry, Steve, this guy?
Yeah, let me circle it here. This one.
Hold on, I'll get it.
Sure, yeah. Yep.
Light years away. Gonna hit the porch light for me?
Yep, porch light coming on.
Okay, then.
There we go.
So this is there's a couple of things here. There's a crinoid. I'm pretty sure this might be Candidella, and then there's a zoanthid on the bottom. Is there any way you can poke the colony?
Yeah, can do.
I'm curious myself too. Just kind of brush up against it, since we have time.
It's full what?
I can keep that bubble on the minute there. Spastic minute. Can you go zoom in there?
A little more?
All right.
Yep.
You got full zoom.
That's full.
All right. No, is it me or is it not quite focused on the coral?
It's like the one on the far left is in focus. It's really blurry.
Far left, roger.
Yeah, that one's in focus.
Oh, yeah, wow. So that would indicate it's probably Narella then. Can you, now that you got the arm there, can you snip a piece?
Yeah.
It's really small, so get what you can, I guess.
Can I zoom out just a bit?
Yeah.
Just see the...
How's that?
Yeah, perfect.
Even 5 centimeters would be enough. This is a very unusual branching pattern.
I got the branch here.
Yeah, that looks like a good branch.
You're going to get a tug soon.
Roger.
That's great. Beautiful.
Nice.
All right, we can go into the forward box with this.
after that.
I have a note that says don't open forward box.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a bunch of floaty stuff in there apparently.
Can
What
we
is it?
open the forward box a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Stick that in there.
Can you move her back towards me? We got quite a bit of layback. I might just have to, deal with it here.
Maybe
you go right there?
Lambda would be the better side. Oh, what do we got in there already?
Plexurid
Plexurid,
branches.
okay. Yeah. Lambda, but don't open it too much.
Roger.
There's a sea urchin and omega that may escape.
Left side, right?
Yep.
Okay, give it a bump there. Yep, bump, bump, bump. Again. Keep going.
Oh, I see some.
Yeah, it's stuck in there. It's not going to float away.
You can open one.
One more bump there.
One.
Okay, here we go.
Good morning.
Hang on, I'll open some more.
All right.
One more.
Okay. Sorry.
It's a crazy looking urchin they got.
That's going to be fun to watch dissect.
All right, good.
Very nice.
Good collection, thank
Nice.
Well done.
Okay.
you. So Narella is the genus on that one. You can write that in the sample log.
So here's another question from chat. How often do you guys dive on the same seamount but with different waypoints?
Okay, you can go put the bubble back there and see if we can get back in the box here.
At least on this expedition, this is the first time we're doing that. Johnston's pretty large feature, so and it has interesting areas, I guess. So I feel like we were sort of I don't know, propositioned to dive more than once.
Oh, look at that sponge.
So it's promising that we're seeing more biodiversity. Just kind of in the, there's a little bump here in the topography that suggests that maybe, we were in a kind of a low flow gully or canyon, not really a canyon, but, cut in the wall here. So it could be supporting my hypothesis that it's kind of flow limited for a lot of corals, sponges.
And it's because that flow kind of brings about the marine snow and the food that we're seeing?
Yeah. Whenever you have, shadows, especially if the currents are out of the north, there's a fairly large wall that sticks out, juts out from the slope up to our north. So that could provide like a shadow so that currents don't necessarily bring a lot of marine snow particles into these channels, gullies, canyons, cuts. I don't know what the proper terminology is, but it's not a local topographic feature that might induce currents.
And to another answering question in chat, about how long did you have to go to college to be able to do a job such as this? Too long.
Yeah, that was going to be, I finished in the 27th grade.
A lot of schooling you have to go to.
I am 6 years in.
And I just graduated high school.
We have the whole spectrum.
Yeah.
The full spectrum.
Wide swath, but it really, again, goes back to, you know, reading what position you're most interested in and reading those crew bios. They'll tell you.
It's true. It really
what
depends.
education we have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I try not to bring up to like elementary schoolers that I finished the 27th grade. There's a look of shock on their faces. But
it was up that high.
It goes up.
But it gets better. After 12th grade,
Yeah.
I really enjoyed education.
That's a little bit more reassuring.
Yeah. I mean, for me, high school is a bit of a slog. You know, you have to take the courses that you have to take, but when you're in college and you get to choose your major and you're, you know, beyond your general education courses, it gets really, really interesting when you get to pick your own specializations.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, look at that animal. Oh, it's just a fish.
Where were you looking?
Just a fish.
In the bubble cam.
Oh.
Looked like it had arms.
It's a cool looking landscape.
Yeah, it is.
Nice screensaver.
Okay, you ready for a move? Okay. Steve, do you want to keep going southeast?
It's not looking promising. Maybe we can move kind of northeast or east a little bit more, head up slope and see if it changes.
Okay. Oh, little mushroom coral.
Can zoom in
So
on
tiny.
that
So,
guy in the slope there.
here's another question in chat. Why is the front box lander an omega, not letters like the rest?
Lambda and omega.
Yeah, I don't know how that got changed. It used to be A and B. I don't know why.
It sounds cooler.
Sounds cooler.
Somebody
why
was being clever.
one
Something to do with
capital and one
sorority.
lowercase?
Because why not?
Beer soaked sorority experience that they
This-
wanted to relive.
The sorority
true?
experience of the Hercules.
For the longest time, it was just forward bio box, port starboard, and then they started to get letters.
Glory
Yes.
days.
Yeah, port starboard, I guess.
There was a rivalry.
It's too nautical.
Roger, east at 085. Not sure what that is down there.
Yeah.
Get a quick zoom if you want.
Yeah.
Specialism.
Something
Oh.
jumped out there.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Seen a few of those.
Anemone?
It's half sim.
yeah, it's not a cup coral. It's likely an anemone. Yep.
Okay.
The ones that are in the rock, their bodies are in the crevices of the rock. They're very difficult to get at.
Can you show me the map first? Oh, no,
I
mine,
can't.
I'll just look
Here's
at
the
it.
minute.
Okay. It's my camera angles. You can put it back.
Roger that.
And another question from chat. Somebody wants to know, what are the specialisms of the people in the control room here? Well, we have Brandon, our geologist, Steve, our resident biologist, Kukui is our data logger. I am a honorary science communication fellow. Cameraman Dan works our audio and video. Delta Dan up front is our go-to ROV Hercules pilot. Gibson is our ROV pilot intern and currently flying Atalanta. And then off into the corner, all the way to the right is Lynette, who is our navigation and ocean floor mapping person. And about every single watch has this sort of dynamic where we have a biologist, a geologist, data logger, and 2 ROV pilots, a navigator, and science communication, as well as a cameraman, Dan, of their own specification.
Can we center up the camera? Hey, thanks.
Sorry.
Ooh, a sea pen?
Yeah, this looks like the ones that we were seeing on the cone of the previous
Go zoom in on that guy a bit.
the slope of the previous cone that we were going up earlier last night.
I can poke my eye out.
I think we were calling this, I don't know what we were calling it. I think we took a piece to actually get a handle on the ID. Possibly funiculina or something.
Funiculina?
Yeah.
Very soft.
And can you spell that for the people at home?
Oh.
And me?
Retracted.
F-U-N-I-C-U-L-I-N-A, I think. But that's a tentative ID. It's not a final ID.
Polyps just
keep moving.
sucked on in.
Seemed like it reacted to the prop wash from the vehicle.
Yeah, that's cool. No ripples in the sand here. It's very smooth.
Yeah, I think, we can commit ourselves now to the upslope towards waypoint 7 direction.
Full send.
Copy that.
Is that going to be 090 all the way, is it? Sorry, so pretty much east. Roger.
Can I ask how that, the depth box, like the color, how does that work?
Yeah, they're categories of depth. So let's see, let's go to the home page.
Oh, okay, that's key.
We probably won't see many things outside of the black box with a gray bar, greater than 1,000 meters.
Gotcha.
We do need different designations, I think. 1,000 to 3,000 meters is a very broad range.
Yeah. Then to answer that question in chat really quickly, are the waypoints shown of the topograph On channel 3, yes, they are. Anything that you see with a WP and a number after it are considered waypoints.
WP.
Another question from chat. Do you think you will study the smaller, under half-inch creatures of the deep? If they are um, of notice, I believe sometimes we'll slurp them up and then try to study them. I'm not entirely sure. Steve, do you know?
We sample a lot of small animals. Usually they're associated with other collections. So we just don't always see them, but they do come up and we do process them because they are important. They represent biodiversity, so we process them.
That very large rock we got earlier yesterday, it's going to have a lot of tiny guys on it.
Oh, I hope the cup closed.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Me too.
Hope it's still attached. It's so little.
Okay, time to do a gauge check.
Sure. Yeah, I can't move.
Gauges look good.
All right, yep. Thank you.
Here's another question from chat. What will the processing of study animals involve? Morphology, taxonomical, anatomical, molecular studies?
All of the above in time. But yeah, processing basically just means preserving the specimen and making sure we take down all the important data that are needed and can only be accessed at sea before the animal is preserved. So for example, noting things like sizes, which may be distorted after they're being preserved, or color especially will tend to leach out during preservation. So making sure we note those variables so that those characteristics can also be used in species description, for example, or identification. And then, yeah, just making sure that we preserve it in as many ways as possible, such that, oh, there's a lobster there on the rock.
Oh, yeah.
Is it Poliopogon?
That's not, that's something else.
That's a Euplectillid though, right?
Oh,
I believe so.
Away.
Bolosoma?
Full wide.
Yeah.
Bolosoma.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it looks a lot like this.
Yep.
Yeah, get a shot of the lobster in the background there.
Sure.
That full zoom, is it?
There we are.
That guy on the rock.
Full zoom.
Yeah, so this is a type of lobster, actually.
a rock lobster?
Rock lobster.
Now that song's going to be stuck in my head.
What an annoying one.
Whereas the squat lobster we were talking about earlier was type of crab, is that right?
Okay, it can go wide.
All right.
Turn and burn here.
All right.
Is it something like every lobster's a crab, but not every crab's a lobster?
No, this is in its own family.
Gotcha.
Is it still considered a crustacean?
Yeah.
Are there any type of squat lobsters or something like that that are not, that would fall into other species aside from crustaceans?
No. They would all be crustaceans at that level.
It is pretty encompassing.
It's an umbrella term.
It's a very broad categorization.
Yeah.
For a lot of
Something there.
animals, you know, arthropods, deep sea, other than maybe sea spiders. Would not fall under that designation.
Go for a half zoom there.
Polychelid. Polychelidae.
Is that an anemone?
Homerion is the genus name.
Polychelid.
On the rock there too.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a
It's called an anemone.
octo. What do you call the red ones again? Having a brain
Yeah.
cramp.
Yeah, we're all set there.
Oh, hello, fish.
Might be a cusk eel.
Phase A ground fault on Atalanta is reading 25.5 instead of 40.
Roger.
Everything
Some type
else
of
looks
cusk eel.
nominal.
Much better
That's interesting.
fish imagery on that. DSC. It's a pretty handy camera.
Very nice.
I'm going to come over in front of you.
Roger. Oh my gosh.
It's a cool feature, but you're getting a little close over on the...
Camera went for a jog.
Yeah, I'll be
Oh look, we
changing
can see
that
more of those
actuator
ripples
out
on the
when
sand
we come
again.
on deck.
You bet.
Starting to see a little bit more particle flow here too.
Oh, what the?
Ooh,
Oh, hello
another
there,
halosaur?
Halosaur.
yeah.
Yep. Halosaur.
Now that you've told me the literal translation of halosaur, I will not forget the name.
This is in the genus
Salt lizard.
Eldrovandia because it lacks a certain set of scales on its head.
Close up.
A little close.
Game of chicken right there.
You know, that's how you know a pterodactyl isn't a dinosaur. It doesn't have soar. It's actually not a dinosaur either. But
So when I say a pterodactyl is my favorite dinosaur, that's just a wrong statement.
it's incorrect, yes.
There's a recent series on, I think it was on Apple TV, narrated by David Attenborough about the dinosaurs.
Yeah,
Anyone see that one?
No.
I saw part of it.
I heard about it.
I was surprised at how many dinosaurs now either they've been revised to include feathers or they have feathers as a part of their
right.
anatomy.
Pretty cool.
They look cooler with feathers, to be honest.
Jurassic Park
Just means my
wasn't
entire
wrong.
childhood was a lie.
Chickens with teeth.
No, just
Yeah, chickens are
just
dinosaurs.
in the process of undergoing science.
It's also weird because aren't they reconsidering as well if what Tyrannosaurus rexes look like? Because
Yeah,
those tiny
I'm
little
sure.
arms may have not actually been.
All the time.
That's
And
so cool.
they were more like squatting too.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot uglier than they looked in Jurassic Park, I think. And they weren't even alive in the Jurassic, so they were only alive in the Cretaceous.
You telling me those movies weren't real?
That's what I'm telling you.
Well, it was a book first.
Oh.
Ah, there you go.
I've only got to watch part of that series, and my kids are teenagers now, and dinosaurs aren't quite as cool as they were. But I'm waiting to have them captive for a slow summer day to watch the rest of that series.
I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, I watched the first one.
Nothing freaked me out more than the first one with the arm that kind of like fell off the...
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
They're good for a half zoom there.
Yep, another halosaur. Aldrovandia, darker shade this time.
Nice orbit.
Yeah.
It's good.
Here's another question from chat. When collecting these corals that have open polyps, do they ever close when they're disturbed? How important is it that the biologist know/understand the dynamics of the open and closed action? And do polyps ever open after collection?
The second question, yes. If they're not disturbed for a long enough time, they'll often open, even in the box. Yeah, it is important. You know, we are often interested in form and function. The form dictating the function sometimes. You know, how the sclerites might be arranged on a coral polyp would dictate how it functions, how it retracts. So it is all important. Different groups will have different contraction and retraction processes based on their morphology.
How many different parts of a polyp are there? Scleroid,
Yeah, so
you've
we've
got
got
several parts now.
in the polyp, you've got well, it depends on group to group, but you've got typically sclerites, which are embedded in the body wall, which have a unique morphology. And sometimes there's probably, you know, 2 or 3 different types of morphology shapes of sclerites. And then sclerites in the tentacles will be different. as well. You might have one or two shapes of sclerites in the tentacles. And then there's also another shape of sclerites that are in the tissue that connects the polyps. So oftentimes there can be, 6 or 7 possible different sclerite morphologies in a single colony.
And what is a sclerite?
They're just tiny shards of calcium carbonate. They're produced by the coral in different shapes, different morphologies.
That's basically the shape. What defines the shape of the polyp?
Yeah, yeah. It's they often trying to find something of equivalent size.
Could you draw an analogy to like the muscles and tendons of a human or an animal?
Not necessarily. They're fairly gelatinous, so the polyp will just contract. But if the sclerites are, they're usually more rigid, unless they're fused. In some species, they can be fused. For example, in some primnoids, the plates are largely articulate, but in some, one way you can tell different genera apart, for example, is if some of the plates are fused and 2 sclerites now become one body. Like Paracalyptrophora and Calyptrophora are very similar, but based on if one of the sclerites is fused to each other, you end up with fewer plates.
There's an urchin in your bubble cam there.
Really?
And another, is that a cuskeel or a halosaur or?
Oh, I thought there was, oh, there it is. Or maybe it's an anemone or something.
Rocks look kind of loose. You think we could grab another one?
Yeah, can do rocks.
Maybe. Yeah, why don't you hold her there for a minute?
What is that?
Zoom in there, Dan. Why don't you get the minute out this time?
Anemone here. Nice one. This is not one of the tube-dwelling ones, though. Even though it may live in the sediment or a load of the sediment, this is not a Serianthid. Serianthids would have 2 rows of tentacles of different morphologies, a second row around the mouth, which this does not have. So it's a regular anemone.
Go wide for him for a second.
Yep.
Get the minute out there.
I'm gonna try and grab a rock here.
Right behind the anemone where the lasers are might be.
Really? Okay.
I know it's kind of hard, but.
Oh, that's good. It's practice.
Plenty of room there.
Can someone keep their eye on Atalanta for me?
Yeah, I'm watching things. Watching it dash into the cliff while you're getting the sample. Poke it first.
Okay. Little poke.
Poke one and see if it's loose.
Oh, I got nothing there.
It's a little tiny one. If you angle your manip right, you can touch it.
Raj.
Turn on another light here.
I don't know.
Solid.
See any of them move?
What about that guy right there on the right? Nope.
Okay.
Nothing.
There's probably something else around here. Looks like kind of a debris
What about
field.
on the left here?
Yeah, try it.
Oh, just poke them.
Poke, yeah. Sorry.
If they don't move, they're not. It's not worth digging around in the dirt.
Yep, that one's pretty solid.
Yeah. Okay. Not sure if I see anything else in the vicinity. Careful, the fish is coming in hot.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
He's actually pointing at the rock that you need to pick.
This
So
one.
go tight on the fish.
Yeah, you bet.
Wow, that is very cool.
Look at that.
I have a request. Can we brush or poke the anemone just to see what it does, how it retracts?
You're going to ask me to brush the fish.
Same.
Same.
No.
Yeah, I can do that.
It's just hanging out.
Oh.
Bonk.
Yeah, so he said that one. That's the rock you want.
Okay, bring him and it back into the
Nice.
picture there.
That would be a good picture.
If we open the box, maybe
Always
they'll
trust
just-
the locals.
They'll just come on in.
Yep.
So you're going straight into the box?
Okay, hold on.
Yep.
Let him zoom in there.
Roger.
Lift your minute up so it's top.
That's actually one of the fishes that we often catch as bycatch.
The,
Yep.
Oh, wow.
They get caught in the vehicle.
Oh.
okay, bring your
Sorry,
nose
little
into the
guy.
picture. Just barely touch it with a finger. Caress it a little
Any
more.
more?
See if you can get
Kind
it
of
too
flexed
close.
a little. Yeah, kind of flexes, but
Doesn't seem like it's rooted very deeply. Yeah. A little bit more. See,
Got
can you get it
one.
to close up?
Yep.
It wants to eat the manipulator. It's trying to grab it. Poke it just a little, see if it'll close. Maybe rotate your jaw to the counterclockwise a little. Poke it with a finger.
boop it on the nose.
I don't know if that's its nose.
No.
Mean
That's
that
very strange.
Yeah, it would have. Usually they would have closed with that much
Yeah.
intervention.
Okay,
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
I gotta go.
Yep. Stowing. Is that all right there for the manipulator?
Sure. Turn it off. Yeah, should be good.
Roger. That was the first living thing I touched with the claw.
Nicely done.
Thank you.
Not once, but 3 times.
That little white squiggle-like thing.
Can we zoom in on this bit? Something on the rock there?
You're good for a half zoom there, Dan.
Sure.
Atlanta's got a ridge approaching from the northeast.
Yeah, it does.
Branching sponge.
Right, the ship's not moving.
Roger.
Some kind of glass sponge.
Is this the columnar basalt?
I don't think so, no. It's not hexagonal. Does
Be
look
able to go
columnar
through it.
though.
Those would be nice rocks if they were loose.
It's a full zoom.
All right, good. That's a good shot.
Okay.
All right, screen grab and let's go.
Okay.
Yeah, they're hexagonal columns. It's really obvious when you see it.
I just really want to see it. Wishful thinking.
Yeah, I don't know if we will. Sorry.
And what did you say that was, Steve?
It's a glass sponge.
Ah. Great. Then to answer the question in the chat, do the bio boxers and slurp jars maintain the water as the ROVs are pulled up on deck? If a creature were to, creature's color were to quote unquote leach out, What makes the color would be identified in the water. I think, Kukui, I think you're more of an expert on this than the rest of us are. Do you know why that is?
Oh, what was the question again?
Do the bio boxes and slurp jar maintain the water as the ROVs are pulled up on deck? If a creature's color were to leach out, what makes the color could be identified in the water?
That's a good question. The water is retained in a lot of the boxes as the ROV is pulled up. But as for the organism's color, sometimes they mostly retain their color as what we see on the camera. But sometimes, as Steve was saying about like some of the corals and stuff that we see, sometimes it changes color when it gets up to the surface.
A lot of the leaching occurs with ethanol, the solvent we use to preserve them.
Oh, let me mosey around here.
Not so much in the seawater.
Sure.
Here's a question for our ROV guys from a little while ago. How much maintenance has to be done on the ROV after each dive? Or is it like an aircraft after 300 hours or so, they have to do a maintenance check?
Both. There's, like an aircraft, there's many layers of maintenance that we do. So we do about 4 hours of maintenance for every dive. But there's also weekly maintenance, monthly maintenance.
It's another one of those crinoids that we sampled earlier.
Biannually, go for a little zoom.
Would that be a branching
biannual maintenance,
yeah,
annual
umbrella.
maintenance.
Yep.
Cool.
We spend probably a month out of every 12 months. Nothing but maintenance to the system. Not only the ROV, but the launch and recovery system, the equipment on deck, all the toys and tools that we use, everything, the crane,
Another branching
winch,
crinoid.
cable. Not sure what I'm hitting there. Go for a zoom. No.
Looks like your push cores are up against.
Another Norella.
Yeah.
These are very small colonies, not really all that large at all.
Okay.
Okay.
And then
Dusty on the right.
answering that question in chat, is this limestone that we're seeing? I don't believe so. Brandon, correct me if I'm wrong. But I think most of this is basalt and sediment that you're seeing. Not a lot of limestone at this depth.
Correct.
Yeah.
Ooh, this is a cool outcrop.
Yeah, it looks like it was built like a wall
bridge, yeah.
Foundation.
Yeah.
Part of Atlantis here.
Oh my gosh.
We found it, everybody.
As soon as you say
Yeah,
Atlantis,
no.
this is going to be a soundbite on YouTube forever.
Literally just going to say it's
That's
how
not
you go viral.
that's not the kind of publicity we need.
I have been known to exaggerate in some SPL. The second time we've seen these little.
Yeah.
Zoom in there.
Tube
Yep.
worms?
Yeah.
I don't know what they
Oh
are.
boy, tube worms.
That was a guess.
Yeah, I'm not sure what those are.
Yeah, porch
Those are
lights.
TV rooms.
Lights.
Please.
There's
there
lots
be
of different
lights.
animals that can
Wah.
make tube-like things.
Go for a quick zoom. We're going to lose it here in the dust.
Yeah.
That's full.
Sorry.
Sometimes amphipods can also make tubes as well as worms, but these are straight sediment, no visible animals as far as we can tell.
Okay. Kill the porch light, please.
Roger.
We have another ROV question if our guys are ready on front.
Sure.
Great. There we go. Do the arms have a default home setting that they return to on their own, or do you manually have to put them back yourself every time?
Both. They have a default stow position, if you will, that we can teach them, but it's typical that we just move them back to their position It's quicker.
Then as a little bit of a follow-up question, do the pilots maintain the ROV, or is it specialist engineer that do it, or is it the ship's engineer, as there are quite a few different scales for the rest of the machinery / engines on the ship?
Yeah, it's kind of all of the above. So that's why I often say that we're operators, we're technicians and engineers first. And this is kind of the fun part till you get to operate the equipment that you a lot of times design, build, test, troubleshoot, upgrade, repair. But also the ship's engineers and technicians work on a lot of the equipment. So there's generators, transformers, switches, switch gear, winches, mechanical.
Can zoom on this branchy bit here.
Sure. Go ahead, dude.
Sure.
That requires, both.
Tap zoom.
Several disciplines.
That's fine. Looks like some cluster worm tubes, maybe. Okay.
We have mechanics that work on the cranes, for example, electricians that are providing the power. There's a lot of deck equipment also that's involved with launching and recovering the ROV, everything from line to cable to shackles and hooks. It takes a village for sure to keep this gear running. Okay, Lynette, I think I'm good for a move now.
Once we get on top, if it turns out to be sediment, not a lot here, we can pick up the pace a little bit, but let's go a little bit before we decide to do that.
What was that, Steve?
Once we get on top of this sediment, it starts to level out a little bit. We can pick up the pace, but let's see what's here first before we do that.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
There is a few hard sonar targets still.
Look at that. Big ol' rock.
Can we scan that rock? We have time.
Yeah, we definitely have time.
Kind of in this general area.
I think so.
And then the Christian chat for Brandon. Are those columnar basalt formations?
Columnar?
Yes.
I want to say no, but maybe. They didn't. Apparently, they found it elsewhere on Johnston. It says the southern slope, but those didn't look like this, so I don't think so.
Just wait for a little more tether, Steve, before I go too close. I don't have to.
So I think now that we're on top of this this little wall here, I think we're probably getting better flow, which is probably why we're getting more species. We're starting to see barnacles bottlebrush chrysogorgids, hemicorallium, and more plexaurid-like colonies. The target for zoom, if we can, will be the yellow when we get there.
Roger. Good for another 20 on it. And put us right there on top of the rock. Go for a zoom there, Dan.
Sure.
That's good. Thanks.
So we'll have zoom.
Perfect.
Looks like some ends of branches on the pink one are missing their polyps.
Yeah, the hemicorallium is not looking hot here. Got some tissue loss.
When you say tissue loss, it reminds me that this is an animal, but when we call them branches, I keep thinking back to the plant.
That's very true.
Yeah.
There's a little
here, 12
fish in there too.
Oh,
Something very similar to this was collected in 2019, so I think we can pass on this at about the same depth too, about 1,300 meters. So
Can go for a tighter zoom.
Look at that fish behind the...
Is it this guy or the yellow guy you're interested in?
the yellow was collected in 2019. This is hemicorallium.
Okay, I think we might have a little tether there. We can go wide, poke around the rock here.
There's,
Probably gonna turn the porch light on here.
yeah.
To answer the question in chat, is there an approximation on how old this rock is? It's a little hard to tell without actually taking a piece off and busting it open. But Brandon, if you had to guess, like total spitball park estimate, or ballpark spitball estimate,
What's that?
how old do you think this would be?
Whoa.
I don't see why would it be any different from the other seamounts around here, so I'll just guess 100 million.
There you go, about 100 million.
That
Maybe.
is a neat looking sponge.
Yeah, that's something else.
It's
With
got
the crinoid attached to it?
is that a shrimp?
Oh, it is. It's got legs.
I don't know.
Go ahead.
This looks very much like a coral called, or a sponge called Atlanticella.
Atlanticella.
We did find Atlantis.
Should be good.
Hang
At
on.
least in texture.
Right.
Morphology looks a little different, but in texture it looks similar
Crabs
to that,
on the rock.
Yeah, you got a friend at the base there.
which is a Euplectillid. Okay, and then there's a small hemicorallium at the base there. Keep going. I think this might be a good place to maybe take a Niskin to, if we have a second.
Oh, we do. Right here under the rock?
Yeah, there's at least 3 or 4 species in the area. Not crazy high density, but we've got a couple of bottles left, so we can chance it.
Quickly answer that question. Channel 3 is showing our Niskin bottles. Let's take our eDNA samples.
So I'll put that camera. this guy, number 2, I think.
Bottle 3 is broken.
Yeah, go for number 2. Go for both.
Is 2 already down?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
1
sorry.
and 2 are down.
I'm going backwards.
4, 5, and 6 are the only ones open left.
All right, that's bottle.
There we go. Nice.
5.
Show me the nip there. Thanks. Nope, not yet. We're right on the rock there. I'll poke around a little
So
bit.
Steve, here's another question. Do we ever check the plexaurids and related corals for ovulids, or are we too deep for those?
Can you spell that, or?
Ovulids.
I'm guessing it's something related to reproduction, but no, we don't really do reproductive studies on these, only because for a lot of reproductive studies to really understand what's going on, you often need to sample a lot of different colonies, because corals are either entirely male or entirely female. Can we zoom on this white fin up here?
Go ahead, Dan.
Yep.
My sonar tells me no rock, but my Zeus says differently.
Have so.
Let me see if I can park on the rock here. Go wide?
Yep. Full wide.
So, Steve,
There's some metallogorgia here too. We should make note of that for the eDNA.
It might be me on the top.